if you're going to be eating a food and you want to make it something that's detoxifying and regenerative, if it's grown in volcanic soil, do you think it might have some ormus in it? If you're buying chia seed for $55 a pound that's grown in 5 or 6 different regions close to volcanoes, do you think it's going to have some ormus in it? Do you think it's going to neutralize radiation in the body? Yeah. It's cool. We got nature's nanotechnology. And we can just eat it. We can throw it into a smoothie. Do all these cool things. Matter of fact, I just put a video out on YouTube. One of my recipes, one of my smoothie recipes.
Amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, actually, Marcia does better marketing than me. I'm so busy, I have no time to post anything. And so thank God she's going around posting this stuff on Facebook. But yeah, I did my green smoothie recipe because I'm not a big fan of mixing greens with smoothies because you get fermentation and you get problems with that. So I have a green smoothie that has algae and stuff in it. It's a super dense green, and you don't get the food combination problems. So I got that on YouTube. So anyway, very quickly, let me tell you what to do, and then we'll answer some questions. So specifically, all right, you've got these supplements and things that you can do to pull this stuff out of your body. How do you knock it out of the sky? We're talking about how to neutralize it in your yard and on your plants. You can use these bacteria. You mix them in water, you spray them, it breaks it down, it neutralizes it. And by the way, you can also, on your yard and in your garden, you can take rock powders that you can buy, like azomite, glauconite, also known as Jersey green sand. There's a whole litany of rock powders you can get. If you want to know which ones, get the book, The Enlivened Rock Powders by Harvey Lyle, and you can find out. But you can take these rock powders and spread them out on your yard and your garden. And then you, what's that? The Enlivened Rock Powders by Harvey Lyle. And you can take these rock powders and spread them out on your yard and your gardens and stuff. And then you spray the microbes down. And what kind of rock powders are they going to be? What kind of rock are they going to have in them? Volcanic rock, that's right. All these rock powders are volcanic. And you spray the microbes on them, the microbes eat it, break it down into ormus and bioavailable nutrients that the plants can uptake, and then they're going to uptake it. And if you're eating them, you're going to get more nutrients and you're going to get more ormus. So there's a little tip for your yard and your garden. And then, how do you knock it out of the sky? Okay, it is so simple. You can go online and you can study this more intensely, but you can go online and Google orgonite. O-R-G-O-N-I-T-E. Orgonite. There's a man named Wilhelm Reich back in the 1950s. He was put in jail for changing the weather with this stuff. And he came up with the term orgone. And he said it was this life force energy that permeated everything, and you could take bad orgone energy and convert it into good orgone energy and fix things and heal things and all of that. And he tried interesting the government and the military in this stuff, and they weren't terribly interested because he was going to them and telling them that he was knocking UFOs out of the sky with this. And they didn't believe him. Until finally he went to Tucson, and they had had like 50 years of drought, and he made it rain for a year in Tucson. And then they took notice. So Wilhelm Reich was the one, he coined the term orgone. So a lot of people call this stuff orgone. It's just scalar energy. Orgone, Rife energy, Reich energy, tachyon energy, 0 point energy. It's all the same thing. It's a high frequency energy of consciousness. And so anyway, Reich started this whole ball going. And then another man, if I can remember his name, it's Carl Wells, W-E-L-Z. Carl Wells developed a little mini mountain, and he called it orgonite. So you can Google it. And you may have seen these things around. I got one of these things at Raw Spirit Festival a few years ago, and it looks like basically some kind of resin with a few crystals in it and a whole bunch of metal shavings. And there was a guy selling one of these for like $30 at Raw Spirit, and I'm looking at it, and I didn't know about this stuff back then. And I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Well, it's an EMF protector." And I said, "Well, I already got EMF protection." He said, "Well, it also improves mood and enhances things, blah, blah, blah." And I said, okay, well that's nice. I'm turning around. He said, yeah, and also it'll calm your spouse down and make them more. I was like, give me 30. So anyway, I bought one. I took it home. I put it in my wife's office, and I don't know if it was this, but we were having a lot of marriage problems, and eventually it went away. So I don't think it was this though. But at any rate, I really didn't notice a whole lot with this thing, and I can feel energy in certain things, so I didn't feel much coming off of it. And so I just stuck it on her desk, and it was a paperweight for many years. So you can buy this stuff online. If you Google this, you'll see tons and tons of this stuff for various prices, right? And all it is, it's literally just a bunch of metal shavings in like a fiberglass or some kind of resin with a few crystals or rocks. This particular one has kyanite in it, and it's got quartz. And what that does is this. The crystals, they have ormus in them. Crystals have ormus in them. Actually, all rocks have ormus in them, some more than others. But quartz crystals especially have ormus in them. And quartz crystals specifically have ormus gold in them. And if you want to see proof of this, you can go to my blog on beyondrawfood.com. I have an interview there with a scientist out in New Mexico. He's a very highly credentialed materials engineer, multiple PhDs from Notre Dame and several other universities. And he's one of the world's ormus experts. And he took bottle glass, like pickle jars, Coke bottles, he ground them up into a powder, put them in a magnetic bottle, zapped them with a $40 microwave from Target, and gold and platinum precipitated out of the glass. Now normally when you stick a glass in a microwave, it doesn't melt, does it? But in a magnetic bottle, it will. Because the magnetic field will pull the ormus out, and it turns back into the metals. So he proved that ormus gold is in silica, which is quartz. That's also why, by the way, whenever you find quartz in the ground, natural deposits of quartz, you will always find gold. Because Miluski proved, when he pulled this gold out of the glass, and these little beads of gold and platinum were sitting in this glass, it was like a crystal. It kept growing and growing and growing. And the gold and the platinum became bigger and bigger over the years. After he zapped it one time for 20 minutes, and it kept growing more and more gold. And that's why when you see these deposits of quartz, you always see gold along with them. That's why like rutilated quartz is actually quartz with gold in it. It's where the ormus gold is starting to precipitate out. So crystals are high in superconducting ormus elements, and that's why people do all this woo-woo new age stuff with it, because it's creating scalar energy. So you can take some crystals, stick them in a resin like fiberglass or acrylic or casting resins of various kinds you can buy, and you mix these crystals in with conductors. So you can go to machine shops and they will give you metal shavings for free. So you can get free metal shavings. You can get crystals for like $3 off of eBay or wherever. And you throw them together in, what does this look like when it's upside down?
Martini glass.
Bingo!
Sorry.
We know who the lush is. Martini glass, yeah. So you can go online, get a martini glass, go to Walmart, get yourself some fiberglass resin, or if you want to get something non-toxic, you can get something non-toxic. Get your machine shop shavings, dump them into this, throw a few crystals in there, and let it solidify up, and you got yourself a little mini mountain scalar wave generator. Now here's the thing. 95% of these that you see on the market, they're not really worth anything, because the key to making this stuff work well is having the particle sizes small. So whatever metal particles you can get them as small as possible. We'll get, for example, machine shop filings, or go to like locksmiths and get their filings and sift them through a screen and get the smallest particles. So the smaller the metal particles, the better. So you just intermix them with the crystals and you got yourself a little mini scalar wave generator. So something like this might clear, an office space if you make it right. But you can tell if you're looking around on the internet or wherever, if you're going to buy some of this stuff, if you see big chunks of metal in there, big shavings, don't waste your time. Because we've tested these. As a matter of fact, if you go to my Facebook page, the easy way to get there is just kenrohla.com. KenRohla.com. They'll send you right to my Facebook page. I have pictures of some little tests that we did with these things. And because these things are generating scalar vortexes, you can see evidence of them. If you put one of these under or over a container of water, like a flat, maybe 6 to 8 inch container of water, maybe 2-3 inches deep, I use a little Tupperware dish, and put this up over it, and you freeze the water, two things will happen if you've got good orgonite. One thing that will happen is you will see a torus-shaped donut of little fine bubbles appear in the ice. And so you can see this on my Facebook page. I've got some that I made. This is a little device that was made in a muffin pan. They call these holy hand grenades, by the way, because you can take them and throw them underneath a cell phone tower, and if you make a good one, it'll neutralize the EMF from the cell phone tower. It'll also knock, like I said, it'll knock chemtrails out of the sky. It'll also knock pollution out of the sky. There's a guy named Don Croft and other people that are doing this. They went to Los Angeles and they put thousands of these around Orange County in Los Angeles. And if you go there now, you won't see anywhere nearly as much air pollution as you did 15, 20 years ago. 15, 20 years ago in the 70s and 80s, the sky in LA was unbelievable. It was orange. It was just full of brown goo. And now it's pretty clear. You can actually see blue sky most of the time. It's because these guys have been gifting orgonite all over the place. And there are thousands of people all over the world gifting orgonite all over the world. So the New World Order Illuminati don't have a chance. Because they got their scalar technology and we got ours.
So what space this little thing will cover?
That's a good question. What kind of space will this cover? Well, if you make it crappy, it won't cover anything. So like these little things they've got... Oh, well, I'll tell you about that. These little cheesy ones, they don't do too much. But just be aware. You can make much better ones than what you can buy online. The ones I make... Now you have to understand, years ago I was a potter. All right, electrical engineer, computer scientist, potter. When I told my CEO, I was working in the medical industry. When I told my CEO I wanted to quit and become a potter, he said, "What's that?" It's like, how far out of his reality was that? Nobody could conceive of this high-paid IT manager chucking it all and making pottery for a living, but that's what I did. And I learned a lot about high-temperature physics and materials in that job because I'm a geek. I wasn't just happy with making pottery. I had to figure out all the quantum physics of it. So I learned a few things. And so I made these things. And something this big can structure a cell phone tower. It's the size of a muffin. That was made in a muffin pan from Kmart. Okay, what does that mean, structure? What that means is this. These scalar fields, they create these vortexes, and what they do, those scalar vortexes, they structure conventional electromagnetic radiation, like microwaves, radio waves, TV, infrared, ultraviolet, all the spectrum of energy that we know about and measure normally. It structures it so that it becomes much less damaging to human beings. That's a whole other talk, but basically all that electromagnetic radiation, it's random and it's chaotic, and it interferes with brainwave states, it interferes with cellular communication, because guess what? All the cells in your body are talking to each other with electrical impulses and sound and radio waves and scalar waves. So these scalar vortexes will structure conventional damaging electromagnetic radiation. Cell phone towers put out microwave radiation. They'll structure it and make all those random chaotic waves that pass through you and make a lot of noise and interfere with your cellular communication. They structure it so that all those waves become parallel, so when they pass through your body they're much quieter. And then they don't interfere with cellular communication as much, and you muscle test stronger. Holy hand grenades. Just go online and Google holy hand grenade. Google HHG and you'll see these. So that's it. Metal particles, crystals. What kind of crystals? What kind of metal particles? Yes. All of them. Whatever. Play with it. Whatever you can get. Play with it. Quartz is a good one. Kyanite is a good one. Amethyst is a good one. There are books all about crystals. Edgar Casey's got wonderful books about crystals. Study it. Different crystals correspond to different frequencies. Different crystals have different healing energies. If you remember, I said crystals have ormus in them. Crystals create scalar energy. That's a whole concept behind woo-woo New Age crystal healing. You've got a scalar wave generator running through an electrical nervous system that's a scalar energy transmission system, and you put an ormus antenna, you put a scalar antenna in your hand that's full of superconducting ormus, and what do you get? You get scalar energy that's healing, transmitting through a focal point of a crystal and directing into a localized area in the human body, and it can heal stuff. So that's some of the ideas behind this stuff. Okay, so
The HAG, what happened in the house?
what do you do with this in the house? You can put it next to your computer, you can put it under your pillow. For example, I almost never get headaches, but for some reason I got a headache one day. I was probably dehydrated. And it was really bad. And so I just laid down. And I know what to do to get rid of a headache, but I was too lazy, so I just laid down and I slid this up under my pillow. And in like 5 minutes, headache gone. So you can sleep with it, you can put it on your nightstand, you can put it next to your computer, you can put it on your refrigerator, wherever. You can make bunches of these. You can stick them all over the place. Or you can make a big one. Last week I was in Naples. And this is just a big martini glass. I was in Naples last weekend, and I was staying with a family. And I had this big mama here, which I'll tell you about. And it's got an active scalar field. It actually has the powered stress shield technology in it that puts out the Schumann resonance, and it has other stuff in it, which we'll talk about. So anyway, I made this one, and I put a Tesla coil in it, and crystals and stuff in it. And I wired it up to a stress shield. This is the first one first powered one that I made, and I slept with it. And it knocked me out. Now, I already sleep well because I sleep with a stress shield. I've been doing that for years. And I'll tell you what, I slept with this thing, and both my wife and I slept 11 hours. And normally I sleep about 7 hours. If I'm really cleaned out, I'll sleep 5 or 6. So I slept 11 hours, and it was so deep. And the cool thing was I had wonderful dreams. I dreamt I was a Cosby kid. It was the most surreal thing. I was one of the Cosby kids, and I'm like Mr. White Guy, right? And there's Claire and Cliff and the Cosby kids, and they're trying to talk me into doing my homework because I was refusing to do my homework. Which is a real hoot for me because in my family, if I didn't do my homework, I grew up in the South. You just got a good old-fashioned country ass whooping. They didn't talk to you about it. It's like, do your homework. So I'm just having this hilarious, vivid colored dream that I'm a Cosby kid. And then another night I had this dream that I was at this really, really cool water park on the side of this mountain. And the water park and everything was cool enough, but I could fly. So I'd go down the water slides and everything, and then I didn't have to walk back up. I'd just fly back up, and I'd cut in line and just get back on the slide. And it was all in vivid color. So night after night after night, my wife and I both were having all these crazy, vivid, wonderful dreams, and getting into deep sleep. And I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like, oh man, I could sleep a couple more hours, but I had to go to work. So anyway, that's what we found with that one. It gets you in a really deep sleep state. So I took that to Naples, and I didn't have it powered. And the people that were hosting me, they slept with it, and it knocked them out. They slept 11 hours, and it wasn't even powered. And that's the cool thing. It doesn't have to be powered. If you put those metals and the non-conductor and the crystals in there, you'll generate a scalar field. And the more of it that you put in there, and the finer the particles, the stronger it'll be. So we did that, and then I got to thinking, okay, I'm going to make the mother of all organites. And I wanted to make a really big one to knock the chemtrails out of the sky. But I figured I'd kind of do this intermediary thing and see what would happen. So I took a really big crystal and I put a Tesla coil around it, and then I put tons of amethyst around it. And then I put tons of quartz crystals around that. And then I put copper particles around that. And then I put gold into it, real gold. I took my wife's jewelry and ground it up. And God bless her soul, she was cool with it. Because she I did. And you know what's funny though? It's usually, my wife is Chinese, and so her language is not, her first language is not English. So, I can never, I'll tell all these great jokes and stuff, and she never laughs at it. Because she's just like, man, you're not funny. So, whenever I make something new, I come up with this new thing, I'm like, oh, this is the coolest thing. She's like, so what? But this one impressed her. This one, she comes in, she's like, oh my God. And we slept with it, and it really knocked us out, and we really had cool dreams. So I took that to Naples, and here was a really good test. Because it's one thing, we could be doing this, and it might be doing nothing, and it could be all placebo effect, right? We're all just conjuring it up with our minds. So I took this big one, and it's powered, by the way. It has the stress shield technology in it. And we were staying with his family, and their 16-year-old son went to bed. So about an hour after he went to bed, we stuck it in his room. And his mom was in there, and she slept in there too. And she had major sleep problems. Well, 11 hours later, he gets up. And he's like, whoa! And the only reason he got up was because he had an appointment and he had to go. And he's like, oh man, I slept so well, so deep. He didn't even know it was there. He didn't know it was in his room. And so when we told him what's going on, he's like, oh, that's why. Because it knocked him out. And he was having all kinds of bizarre dreams. And his mother, who usually got up 3 or 4 times a night, slept through the whole night. She said she'd never done that in decades. So that's one of the things it does. It entrains the brain, just like music entrains the brain. And if you use the right frequencies and the right crystals and things, you can create beneficial frequencies that will de-stress the body and heal it, slow things down. And if you make it strong enough, it'll knock particles out of the sky. Pollution, heavy metals, that kind of stuff. Okay? So we're working on this technology. We're going to make it stronger, lighter, faster, more bionic. And so it should get smaller. But that's all you got to do, Get a simple mold. You can do it in anything. You can do it in a bread pan. It doesn't have to be cone shaped. And you can make it yourself.
Do you sell them?
We will be selling them. We're right now figuring out how to size them and how to make them for the least money possible. Because there's some expensive stuff in these. Some very
basically metal shavings?
Metal shavings, crystals, and fiberglass or acrylic or some kind of resin. That's it. It helps if you layer it. Like if you layer conductors and non-conductors, that helps.
Also, like if you layer, you put a coat of resin and then you put the metal and then maybe another coat of resin and the crystal.
Yep. Yeah.
And then what are the wires? On the one that has the wires, what are the wires?
Well, on this one, actually on both of these, we have Tesla coils inside of them. And
Tesla coil?
Yeah, Tesla coil. The Tesla coil, there are various. Nikola Tesla, was a brilliant scientist back in the early 1900s. He developed all kinds of technologies that could save the planet. And of course, he was suppressed and squashed, and his ideas were stolen, and everything was taken from him, and he died penniless. But he developed all these amazing technologies that could totally save this planet. And one of the things he did was he did a lot of experiments with electricity in fields, and he developed all these different coil designs. And so this is just a special coil design of many that he made, and we kind of did some variations on it. So you can stick Tesla coils in there. And Tesla coils, by the way, can generate scalar fields. So that's what it's doing. If you want to see some examples of that, if you go to pyridine.com, Pyrydyne. That's Fred Bell's website. Fred Bell just died a few weeks ago. He was a brilliant scientist who came up with a lot of scalar technologies, some really cool stuff. Scalar jewelry. He's got these crystals. He's got like 50, 75-pound crystals, yay big, that you can buy for thousands of dollars. They're scalar wave generators. So if you got that kind of dough, you can stick a big crystal in your house and do all this stuff. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with this. Yes.
So the crystal, the bigger the crystal, the better, but the smaller the metal shavings, the better?
Yes.
And the fiberglass is there just to hold it all together?
Yes, and to act as a non-conducting space. You know, it's like if you just dumped it all together in a pot, there's not going to be enough separation and non-conduction in there. It's like this combination of ormus and conductors and non-conductors. And it also depends on how you layer it, how you mix it. And don't ask me what's the best way, because we're still experimenting with it. There's all these people that say all this stuff about it but don't believe it because they don't know what they don't know. Yes?
Let's say, for instance, the resin or whatever it is that holds it together, is there some that you should stay away from? Like caulking. Sounds like maybe caulking wouldn't work because it's like glue. Is there some that might not work?
Well, you want something that's going to hold together well, and these are pretty heavy. Like here, I mean, this is about 25 pounds. And, you know, you can pass this around, you can feel it. It's heavy. And that's another way, by the way, you can tell good organite. Good organite's heavy. So you need something that's going to hold all that heavy stuff together well and not fall apart. Caulk wouldn't do it.
Right. I was thinking of is there something that you should just stay away from that would like suppress it?
Oh, that would suppress it. Probably metals. I mean, like if you, for example, if you coated it with a metal paint or, you know, dipped it in something metal, that might shield it. But in general, scalar rays will pass right through materials. Like it'll shoot right through your house. By the way, I haven't confirmed this, so I can't say that it affects the weather, but I had that big pyramid running in my house for several days. And it can take a few days for it to clear stuff out of the sky. And we have a lawn service, and the lawn guys come and they go, "Wow, man, it was really lucky we didn't have that storm." I'm like, "What storm?" They said, "Well, there's supposed to be this huge storm that's covering all the floor that's just supposed to wipe us out, but it didn't show up." It's like, really? That's cool. And then my bookkeeper comes, and she says the same thing. It's like, "Wow, man, it's really lucky that huge storm didn't come and wipe us out." Oh, I was like, "You heard it too?" She's like, "Yeah, it was supposed to just tear everything up, and it's like sunny outside." I'm thinking, wonder if this has anything to do with it. Because you can go on YouTube and you can see this. Just go in there and go on YouTube and search on Organite, and you'll see people, or Cloudbuster, and you'll see people making these devices and clearing the sky right before your eyes. And knocking chemtrails out of the sky. And what happens is you can tell there's a scalar vortex going on because those chemtrails, they're lines up in the sky, right? And what happens? They twist up. They twist into little pinwheels and then they disappear. Scalar vortex. You can test these simply by sticking them in your freezer over some water. Take like a Tupperware dish or something, 2 or 3 inches of water, stick it up over it on a tray or whatever, and let it freeze. And what you will see is, like I said, this donut-shaped bubbles if it's a good, strong organite. And I've got this on my Facebook page. You can see this. If the water has ormus in it, because we have well water and we're testing this with, it will make the water either creep up the side of the container, or it will create humps or stalagmites coming up out of the water. And that's how you know you've got, number one, you got ormus in your water, and you know you got a scalar field. So if you go to my Facebook page, you can see you can see examples of this. I've got a strong one and I've got a weak one and what they look like. And the strong one, there's this big hump of water crawling up the side of the container because it's anti-gravitational. The ormus is anti-gravitational, and in the presence of a scalar field, it wants to levitate. Shwing! How cool is that? And you can make it yourself in your Susie Homemaker oven. Yes?
When you say you wrap the crystal with would you use like a copper wire or a gold wire?
Yes.
Either one?
Yes.
Any kind of? No?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know.
You don't know?
Yes.
That's good.
You can use all of the above, yeah. You can use copper, aluminum, gold, uranium. Well, not uranium. No, you don't want to use radioactive stuff. But you can use rhodium, iridium, any of the platinum groups. This is going to cost you a bunch of money if you do. You could use gold wire. Gold has a particularly good effect with these things. So if you can get a little bit of gold and grind it up in there. One thing you can do, you can buy gold leaf. And relatively inexpensive, like $50 you can get a package of gold leaf, which real gold, not the fake gold that's like $8 at Walmart. But you get real gold leaf and you can shred that up and mix it into it. And that will put the frequency of gold into it, and that's very healing as well. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this. You can take crystals and read about this stuff. There's all kinds of books about Atlantean technology, wrapping crystals with wires and things. And of course, scientists are going to say it's total nonsense and it's pseudoscience. And it doesn't matter if it's putting you into deep sleep states and blocking EMF. And particularly like with these smart meters, I've been hearing people that are making these things and putting them on their smart meters and neutralizing their smart meter EMF. There's always a solution. How cool is that? To me, that's just ultra cool. I never ever have to worry about whatever comes down the crazy road that these people will conjure up. Because there's a solution.
The crystals, you just find, where do you find,
Just Google it. Go to the Great Oracle Google and Google it.
You can buy them online.
You can buy them online all over the place. There's tons of people. eBay, there's people selling tons of it on eBay. There's crystal websites all over the place selling it.
And are there any in particular that you recommend as to the crystals, or just?
I like quartz because it's cheap and it's high in ormus. We know it's got ormus gold in it. I like amethyst because it's my birthstone and it's a healing energy. I like kyanite. Kyanite's a blue. It's real pretty. It's blue.
How do you spell that?
Kyanite. Yeah, get some books on crystals and read about the healing properties of crystals and just kind of intuit what appeals to you.
Okay.
And throw it in there. I met this guy who made where'd my stress shield go? Gimme, there it is. I met a guy who made a variation of this. It's not scalar, but it's electromagnetic using crystals and wire. So you don't have to use this expensive technology, you can make your own. This is $300, and it's worth every penny. It's actually cheaper. There's actually nothing on the market like it, but the closest thing to it is about $1,500. So, but you can make your own.
Excuse me, what kind of resin are you using? Because this is dark, and I've worked with resin before, that's why I'm asking.
That's fiberglass resin.
Oh, it's fiberglass.
But it's got all kinds of amazing stuff in it.
Okay. So you can just do fiberglass resin?
Yeah, you can do fiberglass, you can do acrylic, there's a whole litany of polycarbonate casting resins. We're going to be using a non-toxic plant-based resin. We're just prototyping with this because it's cheap and it's readily available. It's close. We can just get a
non-toxic resin?
There are non-toxic. Yeah, there's a company out in California that makes a non-toxic surfboard resin that's plant-based, but it's like 4 times as expensive as fiberglass. So prototyping, we're not going to use that.
What do the little red things? Just leave them there, or?
No, those wires connect to the stress shield.
Okay.
Yeah, this puts out a frequency, so we pull the antenna off of this and we hook that up, and that becomes the antenna for this,
Okay.
which is what this is. If you guys want to see this little flashing light, by the way, is just for looks.
Okay.
So people go, oh, cool, it's doing something. That doesn't do anything.
So that's basically the same thing?
This is a big piece of orgonite, and it's got, like I said, it's got a big quartz crystal in here with a Tesla coil around it that's connected to a stress shield. It's got amethyst crystals all around it. Then it's got quartz crystals all around it. Then it's got copper particles all around it. Then it's got gold hiding in there. We've got gold particles hiding in there, and I think it's got some other metals in there, like maybe some brass and some steel or iron or something like that. And then we just put a stress shield circuit into it and plug it into a wall, and it's all wired up. And what that stress shield does, it doesn't really power it. It doesn't make it more powerful. It just puts a specific frequency into it. It puts the Schumann resonance into it. And we just know from experience that the Schumann resonance has all these really cool effects, like getting people into deep sleep states and de-stressing them and making plants grow better and making ferments grow better. So if you come to my talk tomorrow night about how to make your own high ormus probiotic antioxidant superfoods for pennies,
In your kitchen.
you can make one of these and stick it next to your ferment bucket, and your microbes are going to be happier, and they're going to eat more stuff, and they're going to make more ormus. And you're going to have a homeopathic solution that's going to be much more healing to your body. And you can do it all with a few holy hand grenades. And if you don't want to make some holy hand grenades, you can buy ceramics from Terohiga and do the same thing. There's all kinds of cool stuff. But there are people making these kinds of scalar technologies, and now Gabriel's Cousins is coming out with these scalar iodine. So it's not just iodine; it's been zapped with these scalar energies. You guys might have heard of Vitamineral Green from Health Force. Health Force, Jameis Sheridan. He's got a whole line of really good supplements. He's got a really cool one where he takes Klamath Lake algae and he zaps it with scalar energy, and then he dehydrates it at low temperature, and you get this amazing energized blue-green algae. It's called elixir of the lake. It's very cool. But you can do the same thing. Get yourself some algae, stick it in a bucket with one of these near it, do the same thing. Or you could grow your own algae or spirulina, or your own ferments, like Marcia. Marcia, what did you throw into your bucket?
I'm sorry?
What did you put into your bucket, that brew that you made?
I put azomite and turmeric.
She put azomite rock powder, turmeric, and then molasses and water and the culture.
Probiotic, yeah.
Yeah. And she got this, and you can go to her, by the way, you can go to her Facebook page. If you go to Facebook and search, is it okay to give it out? It's okay to give out your Facebook page?
Yeah.
Okay. If you go to Facebook and you search on Marcia, M-A-R-C-I-A, Tardan, it's actually ethereal, E-T-H-E-R-A-L.
This is my card.
Okay, and it's on her cards. But for people watching, Marcia, ethereal, E-T-H-E-R-A-L, Tardan, T-A-R-D-I-N. You'll find her Facebook page. She's got all kinds of pictures posted of this stuff. You know, she's one of the 5% that actually went and did it. And she's getting all these crazy results with it. And it looks like this super crazy, bubbly brew, and she's taken it, and what happened? When you drank that stuff and you took it, what happened?
First I got very enthusiastic when I drink yours.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, oh, this is for me. Because I like kefir, I like kombucha, I like different things. So I said, this is for me. And I really felt very good. So every time you drink, I began like you said, a little spoon, a little cup. But it's good, so you feel good. So in the end, I drink more during the day.
Didn't you used to have bags under your eyes, right?
Yeah.
And the bags went away, which is usually kidney issues. Yeah, and the dark circles. So,
She's younger.
yeah, exactly. And she made it for pennies in a 5-gallon bucket, So that's another thing you can do. You can impart all these scalar frequencies into your supplements, which is what Gabriel Cousins is selling. Any more questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're talking about that ashram. You're talking about this big substance. What was it?
Monoatomic mercury.
Then you talk about earlier monoatomic is like a metal. I studied engineering too. I remember my metallurgy class.
Yeah. Metals. Yeah. Metals. All the atoms are bound together in a grid of some type. Okay. And when it's monoatomic, the metals are not connected together, because what happens is when you zap them with certain energies, the electrons, for those of you into physics, the electrons on all of the metal atoms, they pull in real tight to the nucleus of the atoms, and it's like this. If you're sitting on a turntable and you got your arms out like this, and somebody spins you, right? And you're going like this, and then you pull your arms in, you speed up.
Right.
When you do that at an atomic scale, that that atom goes from being, actually the electrons that are spinning around it switch from being an electron into being a photon. That is like a dog turning into a cat. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in physics, but it does happen. And when that happens,
Quantum physics?
it is quantum physics. And when those electrons pull in, and that atom starts spinning super fast, and those electrons just turn into photons, which is light, and then they become superconductors, and they get all these weird properties, and they become ormus.
So how did you feel when you were around that 5'2"?
I wasn't there.
Oh.
I saw pictures of it. And for those of you that want to check this out, you can go to YouTube or you can go to Google and search on Shiva Lingam. S-H-I-V-A L-I-N-G-A-M. Yeah. And you can actually see these yogis taking herbs and mixing herbs into liquid mercury with their hands. And it doesn't poison them because it turns into a monoatomic. And when it's in a monoatomic form, not only is it non-toxic, it's extremely healing. And I've met several people who have hung out with this yogi, and he made them mercury tea. He served them mercury tea. Monoatomic mercury tea.
What are some effects?
It radically enhances your consciousness. So it greatly expands your awareness. You get realizations, you get synchronicities. You ever done a sweat lodge?
Yeah.
Okay? What happens if you do a sweat lodge? You do a sweat lodge, and doesn't life kind of start taking on a new twist? Things start manifesting, things start happening, things change, things shift. That's what happens when you ingest these ormus elements. Now, here's here's the thing, I'm going to warn people, because I tell people this all the time. There is natural ormus, and there are alchemical ormus. And there are a lot of people out there teaching how to make alchemical ormus. Bad idea. Because it's not a natural form of ormus, and it will whack you. You guys remember the James Ray Sweat Lodge debacle out in Arizona, where this big guru that was in the movie The Secret, James Ray, who was this big teacher of how to create your reality and law of attraction and all that. He has a sweat lodge in Sedona. He has 64 people in a sweat lodge, charging them thousands and thousands of dollars. And 3 people died, and a whole bunch of people got sick and went to the hospital, and he got sued and went to jail and lost all his money. And wouldn't you know it, this is the kind of crazy Forrest Gumpian life that I have. Wouldn't you know that that happened on the exact same day that I'm having a sweat lodge at my house with a Yaqui Indian chief. With about 40 people. But we weren't packing them in, and we weren't doing all the crazy stuff that James Ray was doing. But what James Ray didn't get was the power of consciousness. And this is what people that are telling you how to make alchemical ormus don't get. They're usually young people, by the way. And they haven't played with this stuff enough. You can whack yourself big time, because what ormus does is it shortens the time between thought and manifestation. So think about it this way. What if all of your dreams came true? And I mean, when you go to bed at night, everything you dreamt came true. Wouldn't be a pretty picture necessarily, would it? Right? It's like the more that you've worked on yourself, and the more that you've cleared yourself, and the more healing that you've done, and the more that you've gotten straight with life and yourself, then the less likely you're going to have a problem, right? But also, the less likely you are to need it. And the truth is that if you really have your act together, you don't need it. And if you don't have your act together, you better steer clear of it. However, you can get in these natural forms that will naturally enhance your awareness and your consciousness and uplift you and heal you and regenerate your tissue through photosynthesis and fermentation. That's easy. Sprouting, growing food, feeding your soil these microbes and these rock powders, taking a 5-gallon bucket and throwing turmeric and azomite and all these things into it. They're high in ormus, aloe, whatever. All these things that we know are high in ormus. Anything that's volcanic, throw it in there. Ferment it, write it down, and you got yourself a high ormus natural brew that will not hurt you. And if you sit and do that, you'll start seeing a really cool expansion of your consciousness. You'll start seeing more and more synchronicities in your life, because that stuff is not just going to put ormus in your body. It's going to detoxify you, it's going to heal you, it's going to regenerate you, it's going to do all of these things. And so it's going to be this natural process. It's the stuff that all these people traditionally throughout history have taught us. It's nothing new. It's yoga, it's tai chi, it's qigong. It's eating right, it's eating live food, it's eating properly mineralized food, it's drinking spring water. It's doing all of these things. Meditation. When you meditate, what are you doing? You're sitting, calming down, quieting down, and you're focusing your consciousness, and you're creating a stronger scalar vortex. So what happens when you get together with a bunch of other scalar wave generators in a sweat lodge, in a circle, you create one big fat scalar vortex. And native people know this. This is why you don't go messing around with sacred ceremonies like that unless you know what you're doing. And you follow their traditions. So I don't do these ceremonies myself. I call these people in who have it in their blood. They have the ancestry. They know this stuff. When I was hanging out with this Yaqui Indian chief, we had the best time, because he would say stuff like, "The earth eats blood. The earth eats blood." And I go, "Oh, how cool. What does the blood have in it?" It's got iron. It's got ormus iron. It's got all this ormus stuff. It goes into the soil. What does it do? It hits the crystals in the soil. They're oscillators, they're resonators, they're high in ormus. It rains on it, it puts this homeopathic frequency into the soil. So when women, for example, take their menstrual blood and mix it with water and they put it on their garden, they're homeopathically treating their soil. Native people know this stuff. So you don't have to worry about all this high-tech wizardry, blah, 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 blah. Organite. Just look at what ancient peoples have done throughout time. And just do that. We already know this stuff. It's common sense. You know? So, Any other questions? We got to wrap it up. We got about 2 minutes. Yes.
This, you're familiar with Doug Morrison, the book How We Heal, Point Holding for Several Hours? Great, he's the first person I find that. Do you anybody? I know these groups have been in the U.S. and now they're not in the U.S. in England and in Australia. Do you know anybody who's into that around here?
I don't know anybody in this country, but there's all kinds of interesting things everywhere. You know, it's like I got a call one time from a lady who was in San Diego, and she said, "There's nobody here that's into raw food." What? The raw food king who's coming here is from San Diego, and this woman like, "Oh, there's nobody here." There are shamans and gurus and swamis and geniuses everywhere, all around you.
Daytona. That's
Yeah, I'm in Daytona Beach, Florida, biker capital of the world, right? And I ain't no genius, but I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And really, like, I went to the plumbing store in little old Edgewater, Florida, and I got like 60 feet of copper plumbing. And the guy says, "Oh, that's like $140. I said, "Okay, fine." He's like, "Really? What are you doing with it?" I said, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." He said, "Try me." I said, "I'm going to modify the weather and knock chemtrails out of the sky." He's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." So I started explaining it to him. He's like, "Wow, well, we had this other scientist coming in here who's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, I believe it."
Ken, you know that the warm mineral springs that's next to you in Northport? Are you next to Northport?
In Northport? No, I'm not near there.
Oh, no.
But there's a lot of springs around Florida.
Mineral springs right there.
Yeah, and over near Fort Myers, kind of like northwest of there's a big spring there, and this is it. People come from. Is that it? Yeah, people come from all over the world there, and get in these springs. Yeah, nobody in Florida knows this. People from Europe are coming here to heal themselves of like cancer by sitting in these springs. Why is that? What's in spring water? Ormus. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Well, then thank you very much for coming and listening, and see you tomorrow.